Planning and Zoning Board meeting to order. Welcome to all our board members and guests out in the audience. Do we have any excused absences?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Brandy Daniels and Ms. Darlene Gardner both requested excused absence.
Okay. We have a request for 2 excused absences. What is the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion to excuse the absences.
We have
Second.
been moved and properly second. Please, we don't have any online, so we don't have to do roll call. Okay, let your pleasure be known by voting sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, excused absences approved. You had a chance to review the agenda that was sent to you through the staff. Any questions, revisions? If not, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda, Killian.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Please vote your pleasure. Approval, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the minutes from the regular April meeting. You had a chance to review. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting, Killian.
Second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Please vote your pleasure. Voting sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New business, staff.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Hope everybody's doing well. It's a pleasure to be with you guys tonight. So our only action item on the agenda is the preliminary plat for Wintergreen Commons Sports Complex. So this is on Lower Ellis Road. That's between Mill Street and Winterville Parkway. Parcel number is 16204. Acreage is 48.68 acres and a proposed 4 lots. Current zoning is industrial, which you guys will know is our most intense zoning district. So it allows it does allow the most uses within our table of permitted uses. So you guys are probably familiar with this site. So back in 2016, this was a preliminary plat that came through this board, and ultimately council approved it in November of 16 that had a total number of lots of 25. So fast forward to now, to the present, they've revised that preliminary plat for the aptly named Wintergreen Sports Complex. The Technical Review Committee did review the preliminary plat at its May 3rd meeting. So there's a shot of the site just outlined in blue. So Lower Ellis, this is the new portion of Lower Ellis that connects Mill Street and Winterville Parkway. So old Lower Ellis right here, Mill Street, downtown, and this area here. So just north of it's going to be where the townhome communities are going. So this is an aerial kind of washed out on the screen, but that's looking back south, so Aden is down in the distance. This is the concrete plant here. As mentioned before, Lower Ellis, the newly constructed Lower Ellis. So I will say back in 2016, this wasn't present when they did the preliminary plat for that one. So this is looking back north. So this will be the area where 11 at Main is going to go, and then you guys will see plans on the newly proposed townhome community going just south of that was eventually connected here. So again, Winterville Parkway, Mill Street here, downtown in that area. You can see the water tower off in the distance there. So this is just standing over Winterville Parkway. You can see the cell tower there. Looking back, that Lower Ellis goes straight that way. Keep going back to Old Tar. And this is just the other side. So this is Mill Street looking back, the concrete plant being here, Winterville Parkway here. So here's an aerial shot. So I wanted to just remind everybody what the previous preliminary plat looked like. So you can see there, it's kind of hard to see now, but you can see it's divided up into 25 lots here. Here's a little bit better shot of it. So this north would be this way, south, so Aden back this way. So this is the Lower Ellis. So this is the previously approved preliminary plat for Wintergreen Commons. Go and So moving forward to what we have now, so significantly less lots. So you just have 1, 2, 3, 4 lots here. Exact same road network, so they will have connection here. This will be adjoining what the townhome community going to the north of it, and eventually we'll be able to connect all in here. So there is a roundabout here, I mean, not a roundabout, a cul-de-sac, but there will be connection here. The reason for the cul-de-sac leading into that connection is because this is going to be a proposed private street development. So this will allow our trucks to go in like, street sweepers, any type of emergency vehicle that has to get in here and turn around without getting on private streets. So they'll be able to have that turnaround. And I'll show this a little bit better. So again, that's what I was talking about, was the cul-de-sac. This will be the townhome development that will be tied into right here. So you can see the little space between, but there will be pavement between here and here. So, and you see lots 1, 2, 3, 4. With that, planning staff does recommend approval, and I'm sure there are going to be some questions, so I'll entertain any questions. I'll let you know Mr. Jim Walker with Rivers and Associates is in attendance, so if you guys have any technical questions, he's available for it as well. So,
Thank you. Before we take any questions or have our guests to speak, any questions from the board?
You know, I always have a question. Can you give us a better definition of what is being proposed here? I mean, the recreation center, 4 lots, 48 acres.
it's a lot.
That's a pretty big project. What is it?
So, and Jim, you may want to, do you want to talk, or do you want me to talk about it? I'll kind of give an introductory. So you're going to have a full array of ball fields out there, baseball, softball, an indoor facility. The indoor facility is going to, is planned for 8 basketball courts with 16 volleyball courts. Potential mixed use on some of the sites. So you're going to see primarily all the sports stuff is going to be on this, am I looking at it right, on this lot? So then potential mixed use here. So these will be accessory to the use. So we're going to be looking at something that's going to be that complement this use. So we're going to have places hopefully for people to eat, hopefully places for people to stay. So you got potential for some hotels on site. You got potential for restaurants, commercial uses, retail. So the 50 acres will be used up when it's all said and done. I don't have a rendering at this time to show you guys. But did I leave anything out, Mr. Walker? Well, and Mr. Walker has one.
Oh, before he speaks, Brian, I guess I know that initially we were talking, and I guess in our development and plan, this is an alignment to, or aligned to the idea of Winterville, downtown Winterville being walkable, you know.
100%. So we see this site as being something that's going to be not only walkable interior, but to get to downtown. So that's why we especially want this connection through the developments going here, so you can go straight north and work your way back up to downtown. So that walkability is going to be a huge factor in this. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of pedestrian activity out there with sports going on, people parking, dragging stuff to fields. You're going to have people parking, walking. Hopefully, they park here and walk everywhere they want to go in town. Yeah, and Mr. Walker's going to show you exactly what they're looking at. So I will say while he's showing you that stuff, so this project is not something that happened overnight.
It's a concept plan, lot 1, we've got 5 ball fields on it. Lot 2, we've got an enclosed sport complex, we've got 8 basketball courts, and we've got rock climbing, exercise classes, 16 enclosed volleyball courts. Then the lot 3, I think it is, we're looking at retail, sales, services. Lot 4,
Can you just speak to who the developer is?
Right now, the development out of Henderson, North Carolina, they call it United Properties. Adam Simmons, White Eagle, and the gentleman who was working with us.
So, and I will say, I was going to say that this thing has been kind of in the works for about 2.5, 3 years, believe it or not. Stephen Penn, our economic development planner, has been working with Mr. Elib and Mr. Simmons with the United Development Group. So we've been trying to get everything going. So this is actually the culmination of it, getting the process of getting planning approval and getting them to get their funding and get stuff, infrastructure start going on the ground. With that, happy to answer any more questions.
Now, with the Lori Ellis, the new section there, how do we plan on handling pedestrian traffic and cut through
So
traffic
luckily,
lights?
you know, when DOT built that road, there's already islands out there to protect the actual flow of traffic. So we've got sidewalks on both sides. So there are crosswalks present out there. So the end-all be-all of it would probably be some type of protection for pedestrians to get back and forth over there, like as far as, you know, signage in the middle of the road or even some type of lighting out there. But DOT would definitely be a part of that partnership to get that pedestrian safety out there. So,
Now, I also recall when we were meeting with Stewart Associates and with the different communities with the highway being developed and everything, that, you know, this was something that Aden was also looking at trying to become, I guess, a sports town. Will this tie into our recreation, or is this going to be privately owned?
So it's privately owned. They're going to have a private sports management company that's going to maintain, operate it on a day-to-day basis. With that being said, there's plenty of opportunity for the town to partner with them. So if we ever wanted to partner with them to use the facilities, that partnership is available to us. That hasn't been worked out at this point, but it's something that you know, United Development has said they're interested in.
Are there any questions?
Is all the land spoken for, or will there be, the land there be available for new projects on that land?
No, they're getting, there's about 50 acres out there that's available right now, but when you back out the roads and the ponds, it takes it down to 48. So they're getting the entire land out there on this parcel.
Okay, so if they came up with some other new sport that they wanted to put in there, there's not room for that?
Well, and I'll say, so this is just a preliminary plat stage, so they've got obviously their design on what their concept looks like. So it really is going to depend on the engineering aspect of it. If they want to add some more stuff into it, it would just be like a typical site plan development for us. So as long as the use was allowed interior of those lots, which industrial is wide open, there's not much that you can't do in industrial. So in sporting wise, I don't think there's anything out there that we wouldn't allow. There may be some nuances that I'm not thinking of, but generally speaking, if it's in the sports arena, they'd probably be able to do it. So if they wanted to come back and revise and say add another ball field, we would just go through a site plan submittal, and they would do a revised site plan and go through that whole rigmarole. Yep.
Can you give some examples of projects that are like this elsewhere? Because to my knowledge, I don't think there's anything quite like this.
Not anywhere
In the
near.
region.
No, not anywhere. This will be one of a kind, absolutely. And we've kept this under wraps pretty good, I think. But and like Mr. Walker said, you know, Greenville's been trying to get one of these. Chairman has already mentioned that Aiden's been trying to get one. So to have this as a one of a kind, well, I say not one of a kind, but it's going to be very unique to this region. So, and if you guys know anything about the travel sport industry, this thing is going to be a game changer, especially for our area. You know, Greenville's already considered a sports town USA. So I think this would only complement what Greenville's got going on with their sporting industry. And then obviously I think it really, really sets us apart with having a private complex over here that we can utilize basically on a day-to-day basis. And it's going to provide such an economic boom for the town that, I mean, it truly is exciting. This is one it's been sitting right at the edge of telling everybody, and now we get to tell everybody. So it's really exciting. I wish Stephen was actually here to actually to tell a little bit more about from his side and working with him. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Brian,
You know, I've seen other ball fields come about, complexes come about, Boyd Lee Park being an example. You know, the original rendering of that was to be 8 to 12 ball fields. And, you know, that thing started out a long time ago also, and, you know, they don't have 12 ball fields out there. So is there some type of guarantee or anything that we're getting from these developers that they're not going to go in here and get it partially built and then everything just kind of dry up? I mean, I would hate to see us get involved in developing this much property without some type of something saying, you know, when, I mean, outside of the hotels, you know, I
Sure.
understand that's a whole different thing, but the
Sure.
ball fields themselves and the parking areas and this type of thing. Because, you know, I just hate to see it get started and then not get completed.
100%.
I'd like to see it.
Totally understand what you're saying, and I think the short answer is no, there are no guarantees. But the advantage you have is you're dealing with a private corporation as opposed to a public entity. So the public entity, with the money being driven by tax dollars, you know, there's accountability there, and then once something kind of doesn't go as planned, then it kind of shifts away. But and with the private organization, I think they have a little bit more leeway of how they spend their money and what they get to charge for people. So that's really where the comfort level comes in, because you're dealing with that private organization other than the public entity, or versus a public entity. So that's what I would say too.
So in essence, this would be an investment into Winterville versus Winterville investing in itself.
That 100%. So they're going to have to get their money out of it to make it work. So that's their incentive to make it work. So yeah, exactly.
Are they looking to lease the property from the owners, or are they purchasing the property?
They are purchasing the property.
So tonight's request is for us to make a recommendation to the board, to the town council, just as this is rendered, that the 25 lots be merged into 4 lots?
Yeah, so at this point, the preliminary plat for that is expired, so if they want to do anything, they would come back before us anyway. So they're just following normal procedure, what the ordinance lays out for us. It just so happens that the road network is the exact same as the previous, you know, minus a couple little nuances in there, but generally speaking, it does follow it, and you're just backing out 20 lots pretty much and making it 4 lots.
So as they develop, I guess, the different lots, will there be anything that comes back to this board, or their final plat would be the renderings or other things, and then development takes place? So I'm just trying to map out what would be.
No, yeah, great question. So subdivision-wise, what you'll see at this board is a final plat stage. So whether that final plat's just phase 1 being lot 1 of the lots, or the whole entire thing, would be up to how fast they get going. I would assume you'd see Wintergreen Commons Sports Complex phase 1, lot 1, or something like that get recorded. At that time, you'd be able to see, you know, the history of site submittals for what they're planning on each lot. So it wouldn't necessarily go for you for approval. That site plan approval would go through staff level, technical review committee, and make sure that they're obviously operating within the confines of stormwater regulations and things of that nature, zoning and all that good stuff.
So a final plat would look like what? They would come-
So not unlike this, and not unlike what you guys would usually see a final plat. So just, it's really going to be the boundary of what we're recording. Then that way it allows them to record each lot individually, and then they would be able to tie that back to their project.
Are there any other questions, comments from board?
I would like to make a comment. I think this is great, and from my experience, I would like to encourage, I know this is probably not our call here, but I would encourage whoever can make this happen is to seek out some privatized for tennis courts, because I can tell you there are cities now building 50-court complexes, and they're bringing huge amount of people in for league play. Greenville was supposed to have a tournament this past weekend, was canceled due to the rain. They were bringing 600 people. This summer, in the next month, over at River Birch Tennis Center, they're bringing 1,500 kids. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I would just encourage whatever committee it is to help bring in other sports, I would consider tennis.
Sure.
All right, any other questions, anyone in the
I have
audience?
One comment. That seems like prime real estate for the town of Winterville, so if there is some type of extended delay, how would that affect, ongoing development in that area if that 40-some-odd acres, there's, unforeseen delays, maybe years or whatever?
Yeah, and I would say that it's been sitting there like this since that road got built in 2017, so nothing's been happening on it since then. So we're sitting 5 years down the road, and when that road got built, there was an explosion of interest in that property, but nothing ever came to fruition on it just because, whatever reason, private industry didn't like it, I don't know, location. But I will say that this group has done market research through a sports, I don't know the exact word, Jim, you might know it, but they actually do market research on what's needed and where it can go. And Winterville beat out the likes of Charlotte, beat out the likes of Greenville, South Carolina. So, I mean, you're talking about huge metro areas that this site, they specifically found and recommended it to the developers to do it here. So, and that's a big-time research company out of Florida that does all this sports research for not only just, well, I won't get too much into that, but let's just say they've done their homework. But the answer to your question is, it's just like any other development. If the money washes up, then it would just be what it is until the next user comes along. And then the market would drive that, so.
Which we saw in 2016, 17, when it
Sure.
was, we approved the first platform.
Sure, yeah. So the idea was to have a bunch of mixed use and commercial, a little bit of industrial. But I think for bang for our buck and the impact that this would be a much better fit there. And just with the access from Highway 11, and then the bypass coming around from Raleigh. So, I mean, I think this site just screams exactly what they want to do there, so.
So I think this is the catalyst of what Winterville Parkway needs
100%.
to really take off, and not just Winterville Parkway, but also Four Lines Road coming off the bypass. So, Mr. Chair, if you're entertaining a motion.
I will give opportunity with anyone in the audience that want to make a public comment or, okay, there being no other comments from board members, audience, I entertain a motion for the preliminary plat for Wintergreen Commons Sports Complex.
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat as stated.
I second Jones.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, use your voting sign, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The preliminary plat, recommendation to town council stands approved. Report from staff.
I don't have much for you tonight, other than we're staying extremely busy. You guys know it. You can see it around town. I keep preaching the same thing. So I'm hoping to get you guys some staff recommendations on subdivision ordinance updates in the coming months. I've been saying that for the last couple of months, but like I said, we're extremely busy, so some things take a back burner, but we're going to get it to you. Other than that, I don't have anything else for you, Mr. Chairman.
Any comments from board members?
You know I got one, and I want to address the board on this. I've got, and I don't know, I'm not going to say this the right way, but bear with me and be patient with me, please. Mrs. Roberson and I, along with Darlene Gardner of this council, with this board, worked with the town, and we developed, the town comprehensive land use plan was developed. And this is a non-binding document, which was accepted by the council. However, the binding document is the zoning ordinance, which is 171 pages, which you referenced a minute ago. And Brian, I don't know how any one person could attempt to go through this 171 pages in addition to a full-time job that you have and get it updated. It's a daunting task.
Sure.
And I praise you for what you've done and what you're expected to do. But I think the town council, I don't know how to say it the nice way, but I think they're remiss in not getting you some help. You hear that? Anyways, I would like to bring an item up for us to have on next month's agenda. And I don't know quite how to word it, but let me try and give you what I wrote out. The town of Winterville zoning ordinance needs to be updated to conform with the comprehensive land. They're not coordinated. This is the law and this is the guide. In the meantime, the Planning and Zoning Board asks that the town council use the recommendations set out in this as their guideposts in accepting any rezoning or development things.
Sure.
I'll give you an example, the one that, you know, it's near and dear to my heart, sidewalks.
Sure.
The zoning ordinance says sidewalks for everything on one side only.
Sure.
This recommends zoning to have sidewalks on two sides for high density.
Correct.
And I got my cage rattled last month about it, and it really is an item that means a lot to me, because I walk in this town.
Yeah.
And I have to walk on the streets, and I don't like that for an old codger like me. But I want to have us consider a recommendation, and what I base it on is, I went back and looked up what we're supposed to be doing. And it says, the role of the Planning and Zoning Board, it says, under advice to the zoning amendments and plan consistency. It says the planning board may review and comment on other matters as deemed appropriate by this board. And I deem that this is an appropriate item for us to recommend to the town council. Until the zoning ordinances can be updated, which is long distance in the future, I can believe, because I don't know how anybody can do that. But I would ask that they use this as their guidelines.
Sure.
And to act on it tonight, I don't want us to, but I would like it to be an item for us to discuss and act on at our next monthly meeting. I think it's an important item. I think this board needs to take some action and make strong recommendations to the council. The town council's got a lot on their plate. We need to help them and support them and give them our thoughts on this, and that's what I'm asking that we do this, discuss it next month. Thank you.
We'll leave that staff if you want to confer with Mr. Killian, if that's appropriate item that we can, and the board would like to make that recommendation, we'll definitely entertain it on our.
I totally, I couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, it is a big document, but in conjunction with the subdivision ordinance is really where what this board looks at for the preliminary plats and the sidewalks and everything. So when we're talking about density, that's where we're really going to have to define in the ordinances where the town wants those two sidewalks to kick in, and that's really going to have to be a hard line. When you're looking at an ordinance, to have a gray area is not good. So when we want to hold a developer's feet to the fire, we want to make sure it's black and white and make sure that once it trips this number of dwellings per acre or something, then it kicks in or something like that. So those are the things we're looking at in the ordinance stuff. So that, and it's not as easily, it's not readily available other ordinances. So we try not to recreate the wheel, obviously. So we always try to do likewise as far as communities doing it, so that way we're not asking developers to do more here than they would be in the triangle, for instance. It doesn't make sense. So, but those things are just not easy to find. So that's why we haven't gotten to the point where we're ready to come to you guys with that. But I think I've mentioned it before, to sit down with this board in particular and go through that type of stuff would probably be beneficial before we actually get to a zoning ordinance or a subdivision ordinance update. So getting in the summertime, obviously council takes July off, so it gives us a little breathing room. That's always a good time to kind of sit down and look at these ordinances and things. So yeah, I'm all about it, Mr. Killian, for sure.
Yep, that may be impetus for the town council to recognize the significance of this and maybe get you some more help So that may be a really good thing.
I think everybody's in the same boat. We can all use a little bit more help right now, so.
All right. Any other comments from board members? If there be none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Those in favor, use your vote and sign aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.